Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Today this is a very interesting lecture on dermatopathological findings of various bacterial infections. Since it includes one category of infections that is bacterial, but there will be you will be seeing there will be different presentations. So that's why it is a little interesting. I have deliberately omitted tuberculosis and leprosy from this lecture because I've already talked a lot about the histopathological findings of tuberculosis and of leprosy. So let's start from the most common bacterial infection which we come across almost daily in our OPD, that is impetigo. And I don't think any of you will have any difficulty in diagnosing impetigo. There are two types, non-bullous and bullous. Bullous usually start with a blister, and that since it is subcorneal, it easily ruptures and leading to a raw area. It would never cause scarring because it is all subcorneal. So the blister which is formed in bullous impetigo will be always subcorneal. So this is the stratum corneum, and this is the blister in which you can see this stratum corneum is raised from the normal epidermis, and in this space there is fluid, and as well as there will be neutrophilic infiltrate within the stratum within this blister. In addition to neutrophils, there will also be bacterial colonies, which you can appreciate or may not appreciate in the available histological section. So just to remember that in bullous impetigo, the blistering is subcorneal. In addition to the neutrophils, occasionally acantholytic cells are also seen in bullous impetigo. That's why the bullous impetigo can be confused with with pemphigus foliaceus. But just remember that since the age group of patient is different from pemphigus foliaceus, which usually affect the adults, and bullous impetigo affects the children. So there is little doubt in the clinical diagnosis of the two conditions. But just remember that in bullous impetigo, we can find acantholytic cell in the blister cap. Then staphylococcal scalded skin syndrome. And in this picture, the extensive desquamation is seen, and you can appreciate this kind of desquamation. ऐसे लग रहा है कि जैसे कि छिलका सा उतर रहा है. This is very superficial exfoliation. And since staphylococcal scalded skin syndrome is an extension of bullous impetigo, that's why the split in staphylococcal scalded skin syndrome is also subcorneal. Just like bullous impetigo, this is a split which you can appreciate it is subcorneal, and this is the underlying epidermis. And here again, you can see the acantholytic cells. If this kind of picture you will see in exam, you must say that this is pemphigus foliaceus. You will not call it as impetigo. So in this histological appearance, it looks more like pemphigus, but since we are discussing it as the histopathology of staphylococcal scalded skin, so you should know that how this histopathology is confused with the histopathology of pemphigus foliaceus or IgA pemphigus. You should know that immunofluorescence finding will be negative in this case, and secondly, the age group will be different. Staphylococcal scalded skin syndrome is also seen in young infants and children. So ecthyma is another bacterial infection, and just as you find a crust in bullous impetigo, the crust in ecthyma is thicker and deeper. So this is the ecthymatous lesions seen on the legs, and the involvement is almost over whole of the epidermis. And you can see this epidermis is here, but here this is just a thin layer of basal layer which is present, and rest of the epidermis is replaced by a thick neutrophilic crust. The neutrophilic crust in bullous impetigo or tetra S will be subcorneal, superficial, sitting over a normal epidermis. However, the neutrophilic crust in ecthyma would be thicker and deeper and would be involving almost the whole of the epidermis. And sometimes even the epidermis will be lost. This is all neutrophilic crust. So then cellulitis. Cellulitis, you all know, it is mainly a streptococcus infection characterized by all the signs of inflammation, that is redness, tenderness, swelling, pain. The difference between cellulitis and erysipelas is that cellulitis is not well demarcated. It has vague boundaries. It has vague boundaries, while erysipelas is relatively well demarcated. Cellulitis will not be having any super-added blisters, but erysipelas will be having super-added blisters. Um, uh, there is another condition which has a related histopathology, that is necrotizing fasciitis. Necrotizing fasciitis is a very serious kind of bacterial infection in which the bacterial load is more, and the patient immune response is poor. As a, as a result of which the infection goes deep into the muscles and fascia. In cellulitis, there will also be intensive acute inflammation, and cellulitis, the inflammation is mainly involving the dermis. The difference in the histopathology of erysipelas and cellulitis is that the neutrophilic infiltrate and the acute inflammatory infiltrate is superficial in the dermis in erysipelas and deeper in the dermis in cellulitis. In necrotizing fasciitis, the infiltrate is going further deeper into the subcutaneous fat and then into the muscles as well, and with extensive necrosis of the tissue. And extensive necrosis. This is all necrotizing necrosis. I've told you many times that necrosis give a pinkish look. So this is all necrotic areas of the dermis along with neutrophilic infiltrate. So necrotizing fasciitis, if you don't intervene very rapidly, it has a devastating consequences and can even lead to amputations and death. So you need a very rapid debridement and cleaning of the wound. Here you can appreciate this. There are numerous gram-positive foci which can be seen within this acute inflammation. So presence of these foci is not must, but if they are present, they will further substantiate the diagnosis. Anthrax, not a common infection anymore, but it is characterized by multiple lesions. There are different presentations of anthrax, but this is the cutaneous anthrax, which present as ecthyma-like lesions. The histopathology would be extensive dermal edema, subepidermal edema with subepidermal vesiculation. And then within this dermis, there will be edema and fibrin. The fibrin is in a form of these pinkish strands. So these fibrin strands will be seen within this blister and along with the neutrophilic infiltrate and subdermal edema. And the anthrax, Bacillus anthrax is gram-positive rods. Can be appreciated if we do gram staining.
सॉरी सर, मैं इंटरप्ट कर रही हूँ सर। ये स्टेन्स को भी साथ साथ आप बताते थे कि किसके स्टेन में आ रहा है,
स्टेन नहीं
जैसे
किया, ये
ग्राम
तो
पॉजिटिव
HND था,
ड्रॉप्स है।
दिस वाज HND। लेकिन अगर हम ग्राम स्टेन कराएंगे ना, तो जो ग्राम पॉजिटिव बैक्टीरिया हैं वो ब्लू कलर में स्टेन होते हैं ग्राम स्टेन में, और जो ग्राम नेगेटिव है वो पिंक कलर में स्टेन होते हैं। तो हमें ना
ठीक
वो
है सर।
ब्लू रॉड्स नजर आएंगी, लेकिन जनरली जरूरत नहीं पड़ती, हम स्टेन नहीं कराते। लेकिन अगर हमें शक पड़ जाए कि ये एंथ्रेक्स है, तो वी कैन गो फॉर ग्राम स्टेन।
ठीक।
Cat scratch disease, Bartonella hansenelli, is an ill-defined necrobiosis. Cat scratch disease also have the clinical appearance in a form of blisters and crusts. So no specific picture. If you see um, like impetigo-like or ecthyma-like lesions on limbs, then one of the differential diagnoses can be cat scratch. There will be ill-defined foci of necrobiosis surrounded by nodular lymphocytic infiltrate. It is not necrobiotic granuloma, but there will be the lymphocytic follicles. This is not a specific finding of cat scratch. So this is necrobiosis surrounded by lymphoid follicles, follicle formation, not granulomas like necrobiosis lipoidica or granuloma annuli. Then another bacterial infection, which is bacillary angiomatosis. You know, this is an HIV-associated dermatosis. Cause is Bartonella hansenelli, which is a spirochete, and it is characterized by numerous papules and nodules on face and the body. And these nodules and papules have the bright red or vascular look. So by look, they will give appearance of hemangioma or pyogenic granuloma-like lesions. But since it is not acute like PG, they will not be bleeding, but they will be pink, sorry, bright red, numerous papules. And since it is angiomatosis, there will be dense nodular capillary proliferation. This kind of appearance is seen in pyogenic granuloma. There are different nests of capillary proliferation. And along with the capillaries, there will be ectatic blood vessels, the larger blood vessels. In pyogenic granuloma, which I will be telling you very soon in lecture on connective tissue diseases, there will be nests of capillaries. It is in a form of lobules or nests of capillaries. Here you can see the larger blood vessels as well. And in addition, there will be endothelial swelling. This endothelial swelling is not a feature of pyogenic granuloma. And dense neutrophilic infiltrate, which can or cannot be, may or may not be seen in PG. And in addition to that, there you can appreciate the bacteria, which will be highlighted by Wharton starry stain. Wharton starry stain is stain for spirochetes, and it would stain the spirochetes black. So we would go, if we are suspecting bacillary angiomatosis, in addition to the nodular capillary proliferation, there will be ectatic blood vessels, there will be swelling of the vessel wall, neutrophilic infiltrate, and bacteria that will be stained by Wharton starry stain. Then comes Lyme's disease or Borrelia burgdorferi. Stage 1, which is erythema annulare, which is erythema chronicum migrans. It is an annular erythematous lesion around the tick bite. And on close inspection in the center of this annular erythema, you can find a area of tick bite. Initially, it is a small erythematous papule at the site of the bite, which expands centrifugally as a flat ring. And all the erythema migrans I have explained in my lectures before are characterized by superficial and deep perivascular lymphocytic infiltrate. There is no specific histological findings except superficial and deep perivascular lymphocytic infiltrate, and same is true with erythema chronicum migrans. That is mainly comprising of lymphocytes, and sometimes neutrophils and eosinophils can also be seen, but mainly it is lymphocytes. Then the late manifestation of Lyme's disease is acrodermatitis chronic atrophicae, which which gives clinically it should be differentiated from morphea. It is red or violet discoloration with atrophy of the skin. Epidermis is atrophic, and there will be a band-like inflammatory infiltrate, but interface change is not very obvious. And in addition to that, there will be superficial and deep perivascular lymphocytic infiltrate. So, in addition to superficial and deep perivascular infiltrate, in acrodermatitis chronica atrophicae, there will be atrophy of epidermis, but there will not be sclerosis like in morphea. So, plasma cells are inconsistent finding in the lesions of early borreliosis. They are almost always found in acrodermatitis chronica atrophicae, especially in deep derm. So just remember this catch point, that maybe in any scenario you will get this little information that the patient present with an atrophic violaceous color lesions on hands and feet, and on histopathology there will be superficial and deep perivascular lymphocytic infiltrate with plasma cells. So just keep this tip, and remember that the presence of plasma cell in the infiltrate is indicator of the diagnosis of acrodermatitis chronica atrophica. So the clues to diagnosis of cutaneous borreliosis, that is acrodermatitis atrophicans, lichenoid arrangement of infiltrate in upper dermis, epidermal atrophy, thick collagen bundles, and then by the special appeal. I have also discussed the secondary syphilis before in my talk for secondary syphilis. So clinically characterized by psoriasiform lesions, and since it is clinically psoriasis, so histologically the epidermis is also psoriasiform, but there will be no parakeratosis. And in the deep dermis, there will be perivascular lymphocytic and plasmacytic infiltrate, along with the swelling and blockade of lumen of swelling of endothelial cell and blockade of lumen of the blood vessel. That is the reason why if you scrub the primary Shanker or Shanker, there will be little bleeding, because the blood vessels are occluded because of swelling of endothelial cells, not by thrombi. Early yaws is another infection by a spirochete, and it is characterized by, again, the ecthymatous type of lesions on, we don't see yaws here in Pakistan. And biopsy through the papilloma will be associated with a very marked parakeratosis along with neutrophilic debris. And epidermis would show acute inflammation. So all these findings are the findings of ecthyma. You won't be able to differentiate on H&E from the ecthyma. However, if we do Wharton-Starry stain, then we will be able to appreciate these spirochetes within the infiltrate. Rhinoscleroma. Rhinoscleroma is the example of midline granuloma. You may be asked in an exam or in clinical spotting about midline granuloma. In addition to rhinoscleroma, the other causes of midline granuloma is Wagner granulomatosis and mucocutaneous leishmaniasis. So Klebsiella rhinoscleromatus, which is the pathological organism, is a gram-negative rod. And in addition to lymphocytes and numerous plasma cells, Russell bodies, which are the enlarged plasma cells, foamy macrophages, which are called as Micolic cells, are present in rhinoscleroma. These are the foamy histiocytes. Foamy histiocytes are also seen in lepromatous leprosy and in xanthoma. So we do Wharton Starry again here. And somehow this bacteria also take up the Wharton Starry stain, and you can see these bacteria within the macrophage. Now we have come to nocardiosis and actinomycosis. Nocardiosis is caused by Nocardia brasiliensis, and it is an infection in immunocompetent persons. Lesion may be a nodule, ulcer, abscess, sinus, or mycetoma likely. So it can cause mycetoma foot, and it can cause the lesions and abscesses on the body. The organism are acid-fast beaded branching filaments. Botromycosis. Botromycosis, as you know, is chronic chronic infection characterized by nodules and plaques with sinuses caused by Staph aureus. The bacteria is Staph aureus, but the presentation is chronic, and it always comes in the differential diagnosis of actinomycosis or Strophloderma. Characterized by chronic suppurative nodule. Histopathology, there will be superficial dermal abscesses surrounded by discrete bacterial colonies, and there will be sinus formation and fibrosis. So these are the bacterial colonies which are also seen. Similar colonies are seen in actinomycosis and in mycetoma foot. This kind of colony. And other bacteria can also make, these are the filamentous colonies, which will be seen within the infiltrate. The granule is characterized by non-filamentous bacteria in hyaline matrix containing IgG and C3. So the combination of the bacteria along with immunoglobulins would form this kind of colonies, and this phenomena of combination of non-filamentous bacteria in hyaline matrix containing immunoglobulin and C3 is called as the Splendor-Hoppeli phenomenon. Splendor-Hoppeli phenomenon. Malakoplakia. The clinical picture is not shown here, but it will give a lesion, a soft plaque-like appearance on the body, genitalia usually. The infiltrate consists of confluent sheet of histiocyte with eosinophilic granular cytoplasm, which are called as von Hansemann cells. These cells contain pale blue laminated Michels-Gutmann bodies. We have to go for von-Kosa reaction to highlight this Michels-Gutmann bodies, which is a stain we use for calcium. So since these bodies are formed because of calcium deposits on the bacteria, that's why we use the von-Kosa stain. The von-Kosa stain will, the bacteria which can cause malakoplakia include E. coli, Klebsiella, Proteus, and Pseudomonas. Actinomycosis. Actinomycosis present as multiple sinuses and plaques on different areas of body like jaw, like pelvis, like abdomen, and mostly characterized by a cervicofacial disease, hard plaque like swelling with normal discharging sinuses. And here it is in a form of Madeira foot. So it would, the H&E appearance will be similar to what we saw in botromycosis. And surrounding these colonies, there will be a neutrophilic infiltrate, and surrounding the neutrophilic infiltrate, there will be granulomatous infiltrate. High power view, filamentous colonies. It is a combination of immunoglobulins along with the bacteria which form this Springer-Hoffman phenomenon. And always remember that the stain to differentiate actinomycosis will be gram-positive. And since this is gram-positive rods, so it will be blue color in gram stain. Gram stain is also used as a stain to differentiate between eumycetoma and actinomycetoma. Because eumycetoma is because of fungi and actinomycetoma is because of actinomycosis, and gram stain, actinomycosis will pick up the gram stain while the fungi will not pick up the gram stain. Although PS stain is positive in both the Thrasma, a well demarcated axillary red patch, you would, whenever there is a symmetrical involvement of the intraterginous areas with brownish or erythematous diffuse plaques, always go for Wood's lamp examination. And it's a superficial infection, and the bacteria will be seen in the stratum corneum. So that ends today's talk, and I have omitted the tuberculosis and leprosy from the talk because we have already discussed these two diseases in length. So this was a very quick and very rapid kind of histopathological findings of different typical bacterial infections. I don't think there is much difficulty in understanding all these findings, but if you have any doubts, so I am ready to answer questions.
Excuse me, sir. Malakoplakia वाली slide वापस लगा दीजिएगा, please.
Malakoplakia को बहुत डिटेल में मैंने डिस्क्राइब नहीं किया, लेकिन एक बात Malakoplakia की करें कि it presents as soft plaque-like swellings on the genitalia, और दूसरा इसके अंदर there are again confluent sheets of histiocytes with eosinophilic granular cytoplasm, not foamy cytoplasm. Foamy cytoplasm is seen in rhinosclerome, but not in Malakoplakia. और ये तो ग्रैनुलर साइटोप्लाज्म वाली सेल्स होते हैं हिस्टोसाइट्स, ये जो नजर आ रहे हैं, जो ये इनको हम कहते हैं फॉन हैंसेनमैन सेल, और ये जो मिकल्स गुटमैन बॉडीज हैं, और these are the ingested bacteria which are present in these macrophages, and these bodies, these ingested bacteria, they get calcified. जब वो कैल्सिफाई होते हैं तो फिर हम फॉन कोसा स्टेन कराते हैं. फॉन कोसा स्टेन कैल्शियम का स्टेन, और वो इंट्रा मैक्रोफेजेस कैल्शियम डिपॉजिट्स की तरह से नजर आता है. एक्चुअली ये फॉन कोसा कैल्शियम को स्टेन कर रहा है, लेकिन ये कैल्शियम डिपॉजिट हुआ है उन इंजेस्टेड बैक्टीरिया के इर्द गिर्द जिन्होंने मैक्रोफेजेस ने खाया हुआ है. तो इसलिए जो मिकल्स गुटमैन बॉडीज हैं, इसको आप ये याद रखें, दीज आर एक्चुअली द phagocytosed bacteria surrounded by calcium. बैक्टीरिया ये हो सकते हैं. ठीक है? Is it okay?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Any other question? ये दूसरा क्वेश्चन जो आप मुझसे कर सकती हैं ना, वो ये इस फिनोमेना का है, स्प्लेंडर हॉपली फिनोमेना, कि ये जो बोट्रोमाइकोसिस कहाँ से बचा? हाँ, this is important. Splendor Hopeli phenomenon. This is ये जो कॉलोनीज होती है बोट्रोमाइकोसिस की या माइसेटोमा की, characterized by non-filamentous bacteria in hyaline matrix containing IgG and C. This phenomena जो ये बनाती है ना, इसको कहते हैं स्प्लेंडर हॉपली फिनोमेना. ये भी एक टर्म है जो आपको पढ़ने को मिलेगी, तो इसको एक्सप्लेन मैंने यहाँ पे कर दिया है. स्प्लेंडर हॉपली फिनोमेना क्या है? It's a combination of non-filamentous bacteria with hyaline matrix containing immunoglobulins and complements. ठीक है जी, things are clear. End कर लें?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.